I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. And as I said, as we were just sort of getting going, and forgive me, I'm still wrestling with the camera here. We've got a conversation tonight dedicated to focusing in on Braver Angels' work in the field. And so Braver Angels is not just an organization, we're a community, right? 11,000 dues paid members across the country, about 80 or so alliances in local communities, work in Congress and state and local governments, college campuses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we really are a community. We are the heart of Braver Angels, the character, the soul of who and what we are and who and what we do, I should say, is something that really reveals itself in place, in communities, in neighborhoods, in schools, and public libraries. Before the pandemic came along, the vast majority of our work and programming before the lockdown was in person. The Zoom sort of reality of our work has been great. It's expanded our ability to reach people all across America. We were nervous about it at the time. You know, some of you may have been with us long enough to remember there was a moment in time where when the country went online, folks were, sort of dubious as to whether or not Braver Angels was still going to be relevant. Well, of course, it was a big opportunity. But what's exciting now, of course, is that as folks are stepping back out of their doors again, we are able to reach people where they live in physical space as well as in virtual space. And I say all of that is just a big preamble to the fact that we are going to have a conversation today that gives folks a closer look at what our organizing work looks like on the ground, what it looks like in place, and to really just give people a sense of the machine that we're building in terms of on the ground operations. And there's a lot that goes into that that's well worth appreciating as we come to understand sort of the project of Braver Angels and how it is we seek to reach out across different sectors of society, different demographics, but certainly with our roots firmly planted in the grassroots, right? And so there's no way to really appreciate that work unless we appreciate the organizing that takes place by dedicated volunteers on the ground. And so I want to go ahead and jump into that and really just tell you guys just how excited I am to have with us two of our two extraordinary leaders within Braver Angels. One, Barbara Thomas, Director of Strategic Planning, Jennifer Hall-Witt, Director of Alliance and Volunteer Engagement. They're two of the four co-directors of the Office of Field Operations, and their work is critical, but they're going to shine a light on the work being done by a much wider range of reds and blues and independents and others who keep this work going in ways that, really just sort of defy anybody's sort of reasonable expectation of what people who are volunteers are capable of doing. It's the magic of Braver Angels that people are motivated by just the spirit of wanting to make a difference to change the way people view politics and do politics where they live. So I've babbled on enough. Randy, can I go ahead and throw things over to Barbara and Jennifer because they're the superstars here, and I want people to hear from them. Anything more from yourself before we do?
No. So Barbara and Jennifer, please go ahead and take it away. We've got your slides on the screen.
Go ahead, Barbara and Jennifer, and thank you both so much for being on here with us.
Great. Thank you, John. I just wanted to set the stage and talk a bit about the kinds of support that are available to the field and how it's structured. And then Jennifer's going to take it from there to really delve into more conversation about alliances and ways to get involved. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that there's a lot of organizations today that are trying to promote dialogue. In my view, there's two key things that make Braver Angels special in that field of organizations. One is our commitment to red-blue balance in our leadership and our striving to ensure that our membership reflects the diversity of thought in America and diversity of background. The second is our network of alliances and volunteers across the country. And that's what we refer to as the field, and that's what we're focusing on today. So as most of you know, Braver Angels is in all 50 states. We have over 50,000 subscribers and 11,000 members. We have 83 local community alliances around the country and several more in the works. Not every state has an alliance, although we aim to fix that, and some states have multiple alliances. Every alliance needs to have a red and a blue co-chair, one that leans conservative and one that leans liberal or progressive. Purples or others are also welcome in leadership positions, but the point is to make sure that that the leadership represents difference in political view and philosophy. So our intention is also to have a red and a blue state coordinator for every state. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. The role of the state coordinator is to promote Braver Angels programming in their area. They don't supervise the alliances, they support them. In addition, we have divided the country into 9 different regions, and we aim to have a red and a blue regional lead in each region. We haven't met that goal, but we're working on it. Again, the regional leads don't supervise the state coordinators. This is a very, very flat organization where everybody's volunteering and pulling their weight. Instead, they support and mentor the state coordinators. The regional leads also have a role in advising the Office of Field Operations, which is where Jennifer and I volunteer. And they help keep us connected to the experiences, the accomplishments, and the challenges facing the field. So the Office of Field Operations is there to support all of the volunteers in the field, including those who do outreach as Braver Angels ambassadors, or help us put on our events as workshop moderators, organizers, Zoom event managers, etc. Our main role, our main mission in the Office of Field Operations is to create the conditions for all these volunteers to do their best work. We do that by providing clear information, offering training, sharing best practices that come from other field leaders. We get them tech support. We work with the tech team to make sure the tools that we have are working well for our volunteers. And we also have online resources and a field funding program. We hold regular Monday meetings to share information. Once a month, we have an onboarding meeting where new volunteers can learn different aspects of how we do our work. Once a month, we have a national field call, which is for all active volunteers, and it provides a ton of information about what's new, who does what. It shares stories of the cool things that other volunteers are doing in their parts of the country. And for those who are interested, we do a deep dive meeting where we delve into a topic in a way that lets people ask questions and explore whether that topic would work for them in their local engagement. So that gives you an idea of how we're organized, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Great, thank you, Barbara. So I have put a link to the slides that I'm going to be showing you into the chat so that you have easy access to the links in those slides that you'll be seeing. And for those of you who are just coming in, I will put that link into the chat again once I finish speaking. I'm going to try to keep my remarks fairly short. I know we started a little bit late, so you may see some information in the slides that I don't cover, but please just feel free to ask me questions about those during the question and answer period. We're going to have a nice long Q&A. And I would like to share my screen, so I'm going to do that. All right. Oops. Okay. Here we go. Great. So as Barbara mentioned, one of the things that really distinguishes us at Braver Angels from the many other organizations that are trying to bridge the political divide is that we have alliances on the ground. And one of the reasons I think that is so important is that for those of you who have attended a Braver Angels workshop before, you may remember feeling really inspired after that workshop, but then over time you may have noticed that the effects decreased, because you're going out into a world that's polarized, as it is for all of us right now. And so that polarization can kind of pretty easily slip back into the way that you think, the way that you behave. And so the really great thing about getting involved at the local level in an alliance is that it really keeps you connected to local people who are all trying to depolarize. And so that the new skills, the new kind of ways of thinking that you're gaining from your participation in Braver Angels, that really begins to get strengthened by regular participation in your local alliance, regular connection with people from your local area. And I can definitely tell you from experience that getting involved in your local alliance is also a really great way to make new friends. So what I want to do is just talk about, first of all, how you can figure out whether there is a local alliance in your region. So I'm going to take you to the Braver Angels homepage. And let's see, I need to scroll down here. So you're going to click on the Get Involved tab. You might see it on the top right of your screen. And you want to click here on Join an Alliance. And you're going to scroll down there on that page, and you're going to see this really great map that our tech team has produced. And you can find your state. So let's say you're from the state of Colorado. You can click on your state, and you can see here that there are 2 alliances in Colorado, a Denver alliance and another alliance called the Colorado Southern Front Range Alliance. And you can also see here that there are 2 state coordinators, and everybody's email addresses are here. Now, let's say that you live in Southern Colorado. You might not be quite sure whether this regional alliance here, the Colorado Southern Front Range Alliance, does that cover where you're from? And you can't always tell with the way our alliances are listed here. Some of them are regional alliances. And so the best thing to do really is just to send an email to the 2 co-chairs of that alliance and also to the 2 state coordinators. And they will be able to tell them what town or city you're from, and they'll be able to tell you if one of these alliances covers where you're from. And if it does, then you can ask about how to get involved, what upcoming events or alliance meetings they might have. All right. So, okay, so that gives you all the directions for what I just did. Now let's say that you find out that there is no alliance in your town or city. We encourage you to think about pulling a group of people together and getting a local alliance going. And I'll tell you, give you some ideas about how to get that started in a couple of minutes. The other option that you have is to just get involved in Braver Angels in other ways. And so again, I'm going to go back to the homepage. Trying to see if I can get it big enough here. Here we go. So you're going to go up to this Get Involved tab, and you're going to just click on that tab right here. And that's going to take you to a page that shows you different ways of getting involved. So become a member. That's something probably all of you have done already. This one has upcoming events in your community. And I'll say that those are really only online events that alliances, get posted. I know my local alliance, we don't have anything posted here because we are a small group and we just email each other. So just know that there are many other things going on than what you might see on this event page. But there are other ways to get involved as well. If you're really excited about our workshops and you want to help us, be able to deliver more of those, you can get trained as a moderator. You can figure out, what you might be able to do to support our debate team. If you want to help behind the scenes for our online workshops, you could become a Zoom event manager. We have trainings for all of these. Same, if you're really interested in outreach and you like to sort of, do kind of outreach sorts of things, you could get trained as an ambassador, or you can learn how to help organize our events. There are other ways to help as well. There are a list of opportunities that you can click here. And I'll just say that this page, not every contact person is updated here, and we're going to be working on that. But I do just want to point out that our community partners team is looking for a volunteer to serve as a field liaison. It's about 10 to 12 hours a week. They are specifically looking for someone who is a past or current state coordinator, alliance co-chair, or organizer. So if that's you and you're interested, I've given you some links here where you can see the description and the way to apply. And we're going to really be working over the course of the next year, figuring out a way to kind of more easily make those potential volunteer opportunities visible. Okay, so I want to talk to you first about the two main types of alliances that we have. So if you're thinking about getting involved at the local level and you're thinking about joining an alliance, there's two main types of alliances. And I think it might be helpful, especially if you're thinking about starting an alliance, to have a sense of what these two types are. So about half of our alliances are what we call discussion-oriented alliances. These alliances are fairly small. It's mostly the same group of people meeting from month to month. And so they really build trust over time. They get to understand each other's political perspectives. And their alliance meetings consist of usually facilitated conversation between reds and blues and purples on particular political topics or other things, other types of conversations that they design. The other half of our alliances are what we call workshop-oriented alliances, and these are bigger. They're trying to grow, they're trying to reach as many people as possible. So they're really imagining themselves as serving the entire Braver Angels membership in a region, as well as the general public. And they do that by offering lots of Braver Angels workshops and events that they design. So you can imagine that if you're thinking of starting an alliance, that how you might, what you might need to do is a little bit different depending on what type of alliance you're thinking about. So if you're thinking about a discussion-oriented alliance, you're going to want to get a red and a blue co-chair. That you have to do that to start any alliance. You're going to want to make sure that you have someone who has some skill as a facilitator, that they can kind of facilitate your alliance's discussions. And that could be one of the co-chairs or both of them. And then you just need to find a group that's about half red and half blue that's interested in joining your alliance. And then you can get started. We recommend starting with a red-blue workshop. That's how many alliances get started. And then you can begin hosting monthly discussions. If you're interested instead in getting a workshop-oriented alliance going, then it really helps to start building a team of people, because you're going to be regularly running events and you need a little bit more manpower for that. So we recommend starting with 2 co-chairs and then finding like an extra red and an extra blue. And then you can begin running some Braver Angels workshops. You can start with doing them online, where you can get support from people who are doing moderating and organizing from around the country who can help you, so you don't have to have your own moderators and organizers. And then as you have events and you begin attracting more people interested, you can build your leadership team, and then you slowly build your alliance and you're able to host more events. Okay, so I think I am probably going to stop there. I have more to say here about, sort of recruiting tips if you think you're interested in starting an alliance, but I think I'll leave that there now and turn it back to Randy and John.
Great, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to remove the spotlights, and what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be going into breakout rooms, and we're going to have about 7 minutes in there to do a couple things. I'm going to show you what we want you to do in the breakout rooms, and we apologize about the naming issue, but if you do notice that you are named Carly Beheimer, you can please hover over your video screen, and actually it's a good idea to do that to check your name, check what your name is displaying on Zoom. If it is the wrong name, you can click on the triple dot button on the top right and click rename. But once you get into the breakout rooms, we'd like to briefly introduce yourself, and then we're going to have a little discussion about what drew you to Braver Angels, or what are you hoping to get out of your involvement with Braver Angels. So keep in mind that there might be several people in the room, so we want you to keep your remarks brief, hopefully under a minute, so everyone in your room has a chance to talk about what they'd like to go get out of Braver Angels, what drew them to the organization. So with that, I'd like to ask Amy, are we all set to go into the breakouts?
We are all set to go, Randy. Here we are ready.
Fantastic. All right, so let's start our 7 minutes. We'll see you back here. Well, it's time for you to run a debrief of people's conversations in the breakouts, and we have about 5 minutes for that. So why don't we ask people what they discussed and what they're looking to get out of Braver Angels, why they were drawn to the organization.
And we, of course, know that it took a minute to get some folks into the breakout and maybe a minute to get some folks out. Some of you may have joined us in the middle of explaining what it is we were doing and needed to get sort of acquainted with what was going on. That's okay. We're building the ship as we're flying it, and this is a new feature we're testing out. But if anybody wants to go ahead and raise their hand and tell us anything with respect to what Randy just said, what'd you talk about? Why do you What drew you to Braver Angels? What are you hoping to get out of it? We'd love for you to share with the class. So if anybody wants to go ahead and click the raise hand button, or just raise it, actually click the raise hand button, because if you raise it manually, because we're sharing screen, I don't think I'll be able to see it. Let's
There
hear from
we go.
folks. Okay, I see Mr. Jeff Lowe. Jeff, go ahead.
Good.
Tell us what you're talking about.
And go ahead and unmute Jeff.
Jeff is still, can he unmute?
There we go. There we go.
There it
Yeah.
is. There it
Our
is.
session was way too short and we barely had any time to go around to all of us.
Mhm.
But I'll just say what drew me to Bravers Angels. And I think it's really, I want to be able to talk to people who aren't just like me.
There you go.
You know, I want to be able to relate to, I don't want to have someone to have to be like and believe the same things I do in order for me to be able to reach out to them, talk with them, relate with them.
Mm.
So one of the things that's been on my to-do list around Braver Angels is the thing of the red-blue personal conversation,
Mm.
which I haven't done yet, but that's something I really want to do
Mm.
in that direction.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, thank you, Jeff, man after my own heart. And
All
look
right,
forward to hearing how you enjoy that experience when you get a chance to
will
participate.
do.
There you go. And that one-to-one red-blue conversation. Just for anybody who doesn't know, Jeff is referring to the fact that we have scripted one-to-one conversations that deal with different sorts of themes or sort of dynamics of difference, you could say. So we have a rural to urban conversational model. We have conversations across racial differences, and we have red-blue as he just alluded to. And these have been powerful formats for one-to-one conversations, and they don't require a moderator. So it's sort of a do-it-yourself DIY kind of thing. Okay, next, let's go to Carly Beheimer 46, and I'm sure that that's your real name. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know how to change it to Dan Martin, which is the real name. If someone can change it to Dan Martin, that'd be great.
Okay.
I would just like to echo what the Jeff. Oh wow, that was quick. What Jeff said. The same reasons. I would like very much to participate in the one-on-ones. What drew me to the organization, and I did become a member some time ago, and then work sort of overwhelmed me for a while. But I want to get back into it now and really dig in, drill down. Is to try and bring the polarization to an end. I mean that's much more dangerous in my view than climate change or than inflation or anything else. Is we're not going to be able to tackle those more serious things if we can't get our act together and become one family of Americans again. So anything that we can do to help that is what I would like to do.
Yeah, indeed. Well, I deeply resonate with what you said, Dan. I mean, I say that, no matter what your issue is, polarization is the problem that prevents all other problems from being solved, right?
Right.
It's hard to think of anything of significance in American life and national life, right? Anything that requires legislation or just mobilizing society that, that you can get done with just, one half of the American people hating the other.
Yep.
We're not here to necessarily foster centrist compromises or whatnot, but I'm 100% in agreement, Dan, with your analysis of the seriousness of the issue. So that is why we're here.
John,
Yeah.
I'd like to just note that we've got a bunch of people with their hands up. So my suggestion is that the next few people that we have time to call on, if you could just do a sentence rather than a paragraph.
I see.
Try to keep it pretty small.
Oh, then we're going to go
So-
into a different part of the Q&A. Is that correct?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Forgive me. I'm over here giving my own monologues. Okay, let's jump next to I had a name, then I lost it.
I see.
Okay, let's go to Catherine Jennings. Catherine, let's go ahead and get you unmuted and give us a line or two. Okay, Catherine, you're speaking, but you're still muted. There we go.
I did the Braver Angels group where a bunch of people got together to in blue-red conversation groups to talk about a few different issues. It was really very life-changing as far as the conversation went. It was just like, okay, so this is this is how we should be talking at cocktail parties or, school events and so forth. So it was my first Braver Angels real event. And I'm just looking forward to seeing them all again, because if we could do that
Yeah.
on a daily basis with each other, we might find a lot more consensus than we have today. And I think that I think the truth is that the majority of America shares a lot of the same values. It's just a disagreement on how to get there. So if we can underscore the shared values, we'll be a lot better off.
Thank you very much, Catherine. That's beautifully said. Let's jump over to Roxana Dean. Hello, Roxana. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Oh, can we unmute Roxana? There we go.
Hi. Well, I think the majority of the people in our group, and we didn't get to everyone, was that they were looking for a way to help America, and Braver Angels really appealed because it was professional. It had the right mix of workshops and the dedication, and it was grassroots. So it seemed like the right place. And I'd like to just give a shout out that it is really, really good to have a local alliance. I'm part of the the Central Texas Alliance.
Oh, excellent.
And it's just really wonderful to have a group of people all rowing in the same direction.
There you go. There you go. Say hello to Steve Saltwick and Jennifer and all the great folks out there for me. Thank you, Roxana. Steve Haney,
has
give
his
us a
hand
quick
up.
line.
So yes, our group did not make it all the way around also. And I think everyone was concerned about polarization. I am also concerned about polarization. And what I hope to be able to do is work with Braver Angels throughout the country to implement some solutions. I'm convinced that we need to end gerrymandering. We need to have open primaries. We need to do ranked choice voting. We probably need to have a third party like the Forward Party. So I'm trying to get involved in all of those things and would be happy to work with Braver Angels in doing so.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, at Braver Angels, we welcome the major parties and independents and third-party folks as well. And Steve, you've probably noticed that we've had Andrew Yang involved in some of our programming. He's been on the podcast. He's been in a couple, I think, live events of ours at this point. And so, yeah, third-party conversation is definitely relevant to what we do. So appreciate that.
So John, I'm going to let you make the call in terms of when we transition to the larger Q&A, but our time has elapsed for the.
Well, let's just make this easy. So look, the nature of the Q&As here in the member meetings is one to listen to questions on the subject matter that we discussed up top, right? So the order of business here is the field, what's going on in the field, questions about how you organize, how you get started, anything you want to know on that level. But you also can make any statements or ask any question on any other aspect of our work, our philosophy. And if you want to say a little bit more about what the conversation you just barely started to have in the breakout session, that's fine too. So the floor really is open. We've got Barbara and Jennifer here to answer specific questions on organizing the field, but don't be shy, whatever's on your mind. I will have to insist that you folks not be as long-winded as I am, because if you are, we won't be able to get to too many of you, but we do have some time here. And although I'm not any good at cutting people off, I will push myself to do so if it seems necessary. But that said, let's go ahead and get more voices in. Martha Yeager, let's go ahead and get you unmuted, and love to hear what your question is or what you have to say.
Well, I'll just say what I was going to say, just that I am a Democrat, and I've come upon, various pieces of information and so forth that have changed my views, over the past few years. And I feel that I don't really prefer people who are to the left. And I feel that, the conservative side of things is my other half. And I want to be reunited.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, well, reunited, and it feels so good, to quote a popular song. I do think that some of us sometimes have the experience of, we may be Democrats, we may be Republicans, and or anything else. But if you're Democrat and Republican in particular, sometimes you have the experience of really butting heads with people on the other side. But sometimes you're the type of Democrat who butts heads more with Democrats, or you're the type of Republican who butts heads more with Republicans, right? And that can be a type of polarization we have to wrestle with a bit too. I think at Braver Angels, the thing that really transcends is the fact that we're all Americans and we take that seriously. We have deeper things in common, or we seek to find those deeper things that we have in common, while not giving short shrift to the things that differentiate us, because those are important too. So thank you for that, Martha. And let's go next to Hannah Mason. Hannah, go ahead and unmute. Yeah, there we go.
Great. Hi, thanks. Hi, everyone. So in my group, I mentioned, well, I have two things I want to say and ask. The first thing in our group, I mentioned that I'm from New York City, and we don't have an official alliance in New York City because there's no Reds that we can find. And so I'm eager and open to hearing suggestions on how to do that. And I believe Jana, I'm probably not pronouncing her name right, in our group had mentioned that she had contacts, and I'd be curious, I'd be open to connecting with her. Yeah, so I'm not really part of an alliance, but in New York City, but I would love to make one.
Yeah.
And the second thing I wanted to ask here tonight is that I've got 3 teenagers who live in a Brooklyn blue bubble, and I would love to get them involved in something like this, but focused with teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering if Braver Angels has any programs or plans to sort of, like tap into those poor kids. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for both of those. I mean, I'll say very quickly, and then I'll invite Barbara and Jennifer to chime in on this if they have anything they might like to add. Everything is networking. New York City is obviously a very blue place overall, but you definitely have Republicans there. One thing you might consider doing is looking up Republican clubs, Republican Party central committees. See if you can't reach out to somebody who's representative of one of those organizations, because even in places that are heavily tilted politically in one direction, the parties usually have some kind of, club or organized body that at least has some sort of presence there, right? So I'm a registered Republican in Los Angeles, and we've got a lot of clubs out here, even though we are grossly outnumbered in terms of party registration. So that's one place to think about. And if they're more conservative, say, churches or ministries, that's something to think about too. Yes, but it's all about networking, finding people where they live. But on the teenager point, we have had some debate programming in high schools. We've done some work with high school students. It hasn't been very well developed. Well, I won't put Doug Spryer at the spot, even though I know he's in the room somewhere. He may know a thing or two about this. But if you want to send us your email address, maybe we can find a way to connect you with anybody who's active on the high school level. But that's a part of our work we need to expand more.
And John?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add, there's also Mary Thomas Valens, who is on the call. She runs an education and like school board network. I'm going to put her email into the chat for those who would like to reach out about this specific issue, because we have been doing workshops and other events with high school students, with high school administrations, and with high school staffs and faculty. And so if people are interested in that kind of work, Mary would love for you to reach out to her. And yeah, we continue to develop that stuff. So I think it's very exciting.
Outstanding. Okay, great.
Thank you. Thanks you both. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara, Jennifer, I named you folks. Is there anything you two might want to add on the red recruitment point, or shall we go to the next one?
I think you covered it. I mean, just the point of not knowing any Reds personally can't be the stopping point. It's going to where Reds are, and clubs and associations and so on, churches. is a good way to do that kind of outreach. So I just want to second what you said, John.
You might
Yeah,
even
and I
be
would just say, I would just say to, just build on what Barbara was saying, that one of the things that I learned when I interviewed a lot of alliances last summer, and what really makes a difference is in-person contact, like actually going, if it's a Rotary Club or if it's a, local Republican, committee or whatever, actually knocking on the door. People often just don't respond to emails at all. And alliances waste a lot of time often just trying to email a whole bunch of people. You really have to go and try to meet people in person. So that works. Again, I think things like Rotary clubs can be a good way to kind of connect with Reds, putting up posters in libraries. If there's sort of neighborhood libraries in the city, that can be a way. Think about connections in the financial industry where there's a lot of Republicans. So those are some ideas. And then I also just wanted to mention on the youth side of things, Bridge USA is an organization that is building chapters for high school students as well as college students. And we partner with them on our debates program that happens in colleges, and that's starting to happen in high schools, but there are high school chapters. And so Bridge USA might be, kind of a very aligned organization to look into. And as I say, we do partner with them.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, Jennifer. That's all extremely helpful. Okay, let us go next to Michael Siegel. Michael, let's go ahead and get you unmuted, sir. And Michael, what happened to your neck, my friend?
I met someone from the other side and it didn't go well.
Well, it happens, That's
No.
why we're here.
See them, huh?
We're all being reformed, rehabilitated.
No, I think we've already discussed it. I submitted a question. The wonderful thing about Braver Angels is seeking diversity.
Mhm.
And one of the areas includes, as we've talked about, is Reds and Blues. And it's really challenging to get people who are Reds, especially in California, to come into our organization. And I know that that's being discussed at the very most senior levels of the organization. At some point, I'd like to know what sort of institutional strategy there is to do this. I mean, what we just heard from Jennifer, I agree with, but saying we should go do that and then figuring out a way to actually accomplish that are two different things.
Mhm.
So I know we talk about what we should be doing. What are we doing? Do we have a metric? Do we know every month what our numbers or percentages are of Blues and Reds in this organization? Because it's critical to our credibility.
Mhm. Right.
And so, my experience in this organization has been so much enriched by having that diversity.
Mhm. Right.
So I wanted to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, no, thank you for very much for that, Michael. And I'll say very quickly that, well, for one, yes, we do have that information in terms of what our breakdown is from month to month, and it fluctuates a bit or so. But I think that we're probably sitting, it is, to be transparent, fairly on the membership level, fairly lopsided. I think we're talking about sort of 60 to 20 with an additional 20 independent or non-affiliated or whatnot. Now, the funny thing is that there's hundreds of organizations like Braver Angels in the country. And Braver Angels is, with the exception of Bridge USA, the campus organization that was just mentioned, by far the most red-blue balanced in its composition, right? Most bridge building organizations are sort of token in as much as it tends to be a lot of folks to the left with a couple of moderate Republicans, and that tends to be sort of the thing. Why is that the case? I could talk at some length about it. Of course, I am a registered Republican myself. I was, Republican nominee for Congress, vice chairman of the LA GOP and all that. But I think that, part of it is, one piece of it is that I think that many Reds fear that this sort of work is an opportunity for Blues to sort of condescend to them in a way that says, we want to come together, let's put you through this sort of class on how to be like a civilized human being, and you can come out on the other side of it, ready to join civil society. Whether that's fair or not, that's, I think, a concern that many Republicans and conservatives have. And so institutionally speaking, we have relationships with groups like the Forge Network, which Randy has worked with pretty closely. It's an association of young conservative evangelical college students and leaders who are going into public policy. I've developed a pretty strong relationship with the Philanthropy Roundtable, which is a conservative philanthropic network. I've had, interviewed Dennis Prager, Dave Rubin. We've done things on the media front to try and go deeper into Red America, so to speak. But we have to overcome a lot of skepticism, to be honest, but that's okay, because that's just what the work is. Jennifer, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I do, and I really appreciate the question, Michael, because it's really important. And so, I think we are really trying to get good at learning from the data and get better at collecting data, both kind of, qualitative and quantitative type of information. So there is a group of us who are interviewing Reds throughout, people who are red leaning throughout the organization, those who have left the organization, those who know about it but aren't joining. And we are trying to really learn, like, what are their impediments, and what do we need to do within the organization to make Braver Angels as welcoming as possible for those who are red leaning, because we do know that we don't attract equal numbers in terms of our membership yet. So that is something that we are really looking at, and we are really looking at those monthly numbers. We are really looking at all of the data that we're collecting. And I would say that, we are also going to be, sort of in the process this year of really trying to source the wisdom in our alliances for what's working and not working in terms of recruiting. So, I can tell you things that I know that alliances have tried, things that I know that have worked, but we have not yet collected that in a really systematic way, and we are planning on doing that this year. So, your question is a really important one, and I just want to let you all know that, like, we see that whether there are some areas for improvement, and we are really trying to work very systematically to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. That was terrific. And so let's jump over to Michael Liu. Mr. Liu, go ahead and let's get you unmuted and chime in.
Thank you so much, John, and I appreciate you keeping so many people ahead of me. I don't mean to really steal the thunder, but I actually wanted to echo and emphasize on Michael Siegel's question, and I appreciate Jennifer's information, which she said that there are some data. I was just curious, can those data be available to members at least quarterly or monthly, so that we know what we are doing collectively? For one, I believe in more of the qualitative piece of the information. The quantitative part, I have problems struggling with the quantitative part. Long story short, whether or not those data can be shared with the membership is my question. And I'd be happy to contribute to the research, especially the qualitative part, because that's how I was trained. So I guess that's just one question for you or Jennifer. Thank you.
Oh, that's outstanding. Luke Phillips, do you want to say something on this point if you're around, Luke?
Yeah. Just a very, very quick thing. So specifically, Michael, on the question of qualitative data, when you're like volunteering in enough or working in enough different parts of the organization, you hear a lot of people's like things they love and like complaints they have, right? And I have found that in terms of just getting a sense of how things are perceived on everything from red blue balance to class balance to like program development and stuff, I find that the internal conversations the different teams and the volunteers in the different teams do is as helpful and sometimes probably more helpful than survey results that we've gotten in, say, the Braver Angels debate team, right? So I think at some level, number one, yes, there are, particularly on the debates team, but I know that there's other groups that have done this. We do make parts of survey data available to members generally. But that being said, if you're looking for ways to get a deeper view of how different folks in the organization are thinking about our different programs and also have an impact on how to do it, nothing beats getting involved in the teams, right? Like I go to Red Caucus events quite frequently. And then I'm always in the Braver Angels debate staff events quite frequently. And we rage at each other in those about things that we think everybody else is doing wrong and that we're doing wrong. And I think those are interesting for specifically questions of qualitative, how can we fix things about what we do and how do we present ourselves and all that kind of thing. So that's my like that's probably like a longer kind of process of it, but I think that's the single best way to do it.
Cool. Thank you, Luke. And Michael or Jennifer, maybe you two can, it sounds like Michael wants to get involved directly on the quantitative, or Jennifer, maybe you can take Michael's information. It sounds like it might be a good offer.
Sorry, I meant to say qualitative. If I said quantitative, that was a mistake.
Oh, I see. Got it. Well, we probably,
Qualitative, yeah. And I didn't mean only the data as in terms of the numbers of the membership from either blue or red. That's the only data I thought Jennifer was mentioning, was referring to.
Okay.
Nothing further, nothing qualitative.
And yeah, got it. And I think I don't see why that information couldn't be released to the membership quarterly or something like you suggested. I'll bring that up. It's a good suggestion. Okay. Perry Recker, go ahead and unmute, my friend, and tell us how things are in Pittsburgh.
Well, first, I came to Braver Angels through the Citizens Climate Lobby, which I think works with a lot of the same principles and methods. And we practice those not necessarily on red and blue friends, but red and blue members of Congress. And that was quite a learning experience. Listening skills I learned is a really important piece of that. I don't have a good question. I liked what was said about knocking on doors and meeting people. I guess if I have a question, it would be, my experience is more with people wanting to work with alternative parties. That comes out of a neo-Calvinist Dutch American subculture. So I've enjoyed discussions with people from the Green Party, and there's one called the American Solidarity Party, which I know has used Braver Angels platform at some point. And so that's kind of the two audiences that I'm that audience. Most of my friends are blue. I have one friend who's red, and I could reach out to him, but part of our friendship is this, that we don't talk about politics. We talk about our other interests. But the time has come, I think, anyway, that's a long story, but that's where I'm at.
Well, timing
and I can't find, I've had a hard time finding, people in Pittsburgh outside of Green and Party.
Sure. But that's good work as it stands. And of course, timing is everything, Mr. Recker. And opportunities, I think, do present themselves as we keep our eyes open. And hopefully you'll hear some useful tips here as we go. Rita Chisholm, so nice to see you, my friend. Jump in and tell us what's on your mind.
I sure will. Well, I'm really happy to be here tonight with everyone. And thanks, John. I really appreciate the opportunity to share. I shared with my group earlier that I am a conservative voter who really, when I got involved with Braver Angels, I was not very political whatsoever. I really didn't know what most of my friends were, honestly. But what I want to say from a personal level of my personal experience, I'm someone that really loves people. I really do. I just think we have so many special things about us. And the one thing that I have found in my being a Braver Angel, which has been just tremendous, but the one thing that I continue to hear is that I think that I want to encourage blues not to give up on reaching out to reds. But as someone said earlier, I think it was Jennifer said, it's more of a one-on-one basis, because I think that reds have had a sense that we are looked at as a monolith and we're judged that way by a lot, by many people. And it's a really unfair feeling, because we are so varied within our, even within our political sphere, we have disagreements so for ourselves. So I just want to encourage Blues. Please don't give up. And I do know that there are people that have said, Reds that I've spoken to, have even said that they don't tell people in their area because they live in such blue areas, that they keep their mouths shut about being red because for fear of what they might suffer. So all I can say is we need to know one another on a one-to-one basis. That's the way I've always approached any of my relationships. And I love Braver Angels, and I think they have the formula for doing what is necessary to help get our country back on track. So please don't give up, Blues. We love you individually, and we want you to get to know us individually. So just thanks so much for allowing me to say that.
Well, thank you very much for saying it, Rita. And those are, I think, welcome words of encouragement. Okay, let's go up to Michael Tilrico. I hope I got that somewhere in the ballpark.
Tilrico, yeah, no problem.
There we go.
So I guess I'm going to say a couple of three quick things. One, response to Rita about what you said, speaking out even in some Braver Angels public debate conversations. I've been attacked on social media because of things that I've said. So being a red is absolutely kind of scary in a very blue environment where, you know, people will attack you. And I know that those are public forums and not necessarily all Braver Angel members, but it does happen. And it is scary as a red sometimes to speak out and speak your point of view. I guess the next point I want to make is Braver Angels is at least for Zoom, is starting to get large, and like things like this where we have 125 people in here, it's difficult to be able to get to everybody and be able to answer all the questions. And I was wondering if there were any plans for Braver Angels to start working towards divvying to smaller groups, like you know, when we have in terms of our online sessions where more of the out of the box groups or out of the box thinking of way of doing things turns more into subgroups instead of large groups. So that was just a question there. And then my third comment question is
very quick, Michael. Yeah.
Braver Angels doesn't seem to attract very polarized people. And I know that's not necessary. I know we're trying to depolarize, but it's easy to depolarize people who are already depolarized when they come in. You know, our group tries to attract more polarized people to try to make it, to try to, you know, get to that crowd, get to the root of the problem, and people that are having that polarization. And that's very hard for us to attract.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Michael. Let me speak to the last point first very quick. And Luke, maybe you might have something to say on the subgroups point. But on the last point, you know, I mean, yeah, I think it's fair to say that there's a bit of a self-selection kind of phenomenon that takes place, in as much as, you know, many of our core members are folks who recognize the problem of polarization. They want to be involved. And so you might think to yourself, well, you guys aren't really so much part of the problem to begin with. So don't we need to go deeper with folks who are polarized? I think that the truth is that our programs tend to reach on college campuses, our content to a certain degree, and some of the things we do out in the world where you have people who maybe aren't so polarized, bringing in their, you know, their MAGA uncle or BLM cousin or what have you. We do tend to reach people, I think, who find themselves pretty stalwartly, you know, in one partisan camp or the other. It may not be the case that they tend to continue as much as members, but that doesn't mean the programs are not impactful on them, right? And of course, some people do come all the way on board and wind up becoming members and volunteers. But when you've got a longer distance to travel, it takes a little longer. Anyway, Luke, you had something very quickly.
Yeah, Michael, on the size of rooms, there's not much we can do on that regarding member meetings and America's Public Forums and We the People's Forum events and other ones that are whole of organization and basically one program going on at one given time. That being said, you were talking in some sense about the Braver Angels debates as well. which I recall you have given some fascinating and wonderful speeches on in those, and I will look forward to the next one that I see you speaking in. And in the Braver Angels online national debates team, we've discovered that the best size for debate rooms is between 90 and 120 people. And the only reason why we're still doing debate rooms with like 350 or 400 people is entirely a question of staffing. If we had more volunteers, we would be doing it down to 120 person rooms every single time, including up to doing 3 or 4 debate rooms during the same debates. We just don't have enough volunteers. And so that being said, we need to be doing a lot more recruiting and a lot more involving our membership and our new friends to get to that level of staffing, so that as America polarizes more going into the 2022 and 2024 elections, we'll be able to do this level of events with more people. So Michael, if you would be interested, we're always looking for volunteers to staff events on the Braver Angels debates team, and that goes out to everybody else as well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Luke. Randy, I think you said that you had something. Can you make it real quick?
I will try. So our partnership strategy, I think, is really relevant to some of the questions that have been asked. So people have asked about our outreach to conservatives, as well as our outreach to people who are truly polarized. And what we're trying to do is broaden our outreach through partnerships. And we studies have shown that the culture of organizations rolls up into the larger American culture. So what we're doing is engaging with a ton of different types of organizations, from other nonprofits, universities, corporations. And when we engage with those kinds of organizations, it gives us access to a much, much broader swath of society. And we can then really kind of accelerate our mission using that strategy.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you very much, Randy. Okay, let's jump up to Gordon Strauss. Gordon, go ahead and unmute. Oh, he was ready. Okay,
yeah, sorry that I don't have a camera problem, and apologies to my breakout group as well. A couple of us kind of ended up filibustering, including me. So I apologize for that, but I'll try to make this real quick. I'd love to hear from, I guess, Jen and Barb about if there's a couple, I don't want you to choose your favorite kid, but if there's a couple alliances that you felt have done a particularly good job that maybe would be good to reach out and learn from, I'd love to hear kind of more about their story that we could potentially learn from.
Good to test their political savvy with this question. Barbara, Jennifer, what would you say?
Gordon, can I just ask you if there's, what you're interested in knowing? Because I have talked to lots of alliances and can certainly give you ideas about.
Yeah, I really love to know their sort of like how they got started and the strategies they use to recruit and kind of build up membership and what they feel made them successful.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to be kind of collecting that information from alliances this fall. So, the majority of our alliances got started with like a couple of red blue workshops. And then, they would basically ask people afterwards, are you, interested in continuing? And a group would kind of form. And so that's probably the most common way that alliances form, but it's not the only way. But I don't feel like I can give you like we need to really collect that information before I can tell you in a definitive way, these are the things that have really worked and these are the things that have been less effective. And that's what we're going to do fairly soon.
A little early, sorry about that.
And John, you're muted.
I was saying Barbara or anybody else, do we want to add anything on that? Or are we good?
No, I defer to Jennifer. She's done a lot of work surveying the field, so I would defer to her on that.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a story to be told there, but as Jennifer said, we'll be able to tell it more in full as we gather the information that she's describing. So, okay, well, let's jump now to Leslie. Hello there, Leslie. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you very much. My question is, how do you measure your effectiveness and how would you describe your impact?
Yeah, that's a great and fundamental question. Jennifer, you may have something to say on that front. I mean, I would just say very briefly that there's a number of different areas to look at. So on the one hand, there is both internal evaluation data that we've conducted on the effectiveness of our workshops, measuring people's change in attitudes, quality of experience in the immediate aftermath of their workshop experience, but also longitudinally over certain periods of time. Now, some research has also been conducted, I think at Harvard, oh goodness gracious, is it the University of Texas? I may be getting some of this. I may be misremembering who in Texas, but there've been
University of Houston, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. And possibly Brown too. Did Brown do?
Yes. Brown University did a major project with us.
That's right. That's right. So, we do have some strong academic corroboration for the effectiveness of our workshops as methodologies. Then, of course, there's, sort of the raw data around member recruitment, audience growth, penetration into institutions, the fact that we've got programs multiplying in Congress and state and local governments and so forth. Now, a lot of the feedback is going to be subjective and qualitative. We have elected officials who participate in the Braver Angels program. They describe to us what the impact has been on their thinking, on their ability to do their work. Same thing with ordinary folks in any community or town in the country. So there's certain things that we can measure with greater and lesser, I think, precision. But we're always looking at ways to be more exact in our data gathering. And as Jennifer was getting to, that's still something that we are developing, is our capacity for measurement. But there's really good data even now on the effectiveness of some of our programs. So, okay, well, let's.
So let me ask just quickly, how would I get access to that data? It doesn't have to be right now, but I'd like to read some of these reports, and I'd like to know how many people you are reaching and in what capacity. So something quantitative as well as qualitative. If somebody could send me that, or I could get some access to that, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah, Leslie, I can, if you, I'm going to put my email address in the chat in a minute so that you can email me because we have posted some of the summer evaluation summaries that have come out of the kind of evaluations that people give after our workshops. And so we had a group of researchers do that. And then the report that one of the reports they were referring to is a really high quality mixed method research on the Red Blue workshop that was done at 4 college campuses. I can give you the link for that as well, but it's, it really showed a very long-term impact. It was measuring both affective polarization, which is kind of the way that we feel about the other side, as well as behavioral polarization. And they had a specific way that they were measuring behavioral polarization. But 7 months later, behavioral polarization was still significantly, to a significant degree, still reduced, and affective polarization, had gained, lost a little bit from right after the workshop, but had been quite sustaining. So clearly the Red Blue workshop really does have a long-term impact, and there is good quality research that's showing that now. But if you can, I will put my email in, and please email me, and I would be happy to send you some of that specific material.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Nancy Cunningham, go ahead and jump in the conversation.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm so glad that everybody's here and involved in this organization. I am blue leaning. I live in a red leaning state I live in Southeast North Carolina, registered unaffiliated. And I heard about this organization through NPR, and I thoroughly believe in the mission. I would say that there were a few points I wanted to bring up from people who are speaking that I think, although it's hard to recruit truly polarized people, as one of the speakers was saying just before me, I think that the people who are non-polarized or less polarized, like the people who are involved with Blue Angels, can have a ripple effect. And so I think that's very valuable, that we can start the discussion and then each person can bring it to other people who may be more polarized. I've been in 2 workshops, being blue in a red environment and bridging the gap. Found it very helpful. There was one gentleman who was conservative who told me that his wife is a Trump supporter and that she follows Q. And so it was I don't have an opportunity to speak with someone so openly who thinks so differently than I do. And I found that really helpful. I would like to get involved as a moderator and start an alliance in this area, maybe one of each type of alliance. And so it was helpful at the beginning of this session to learn what some of those steps would be. I just wanted to know also how to get moderator training.
Mhm. I think we could probably put a link in the chat for you if somebody has capacity to do that, linking you directly to the portal to register as a moderator, or to get started training to be one. I also just wanted to underline something you said, which I do think is very important. You know, we are all networked, right, in society. And so, yes, I think it's true that if you're able to sort of engage folks who, you know, maybe sort of more moderate, and yet they are networked in a way where they have social relationships with people who are more polarized, I think that does have a ripple effect, right? If you are somebody who, you know, only watches Fox and listens to talk radio, or only watches, you know, MSNBC and, you know, the Young Turks or what have you, if you are 4 degrees of separation removed from anybody, you know, on the other side, you're not even going to experience anything other than stereotypical sort of conversation about the other side in your circles. But on the other hand, if you've got cousins or, you know, friends who, you know, who work with people on the other side, who have more humanizing experiences with them, they're going to be a little bit different in their interaction with you as well. And so, you know, we want to bring people in who are across the spectrum of polarization, but I wouldn't underestimate the indirect impact of reaching people who are more in the general networks of folks who are farther removed from this type of discourse. So I think that's an excellent point. David Sperduto. Hello, David. Let's go ahead and get you in.
Hi, thank you. So I've been occasionally involved with Braver Angels for a year and a half. I've been to some of my local alliances meetings. I'm in Massachusetts, which, as you know, is a pretty blue place. And I've also been a member of a Braver Angels inspired group at my church, a fairly small group, and we've poached a lot of Braver Angels ideas.
That's okay.
I've been to a couple workshops, and you know, we have the same problem in our church group of attracting Reds and red-leaning people. And I do know in my personal life, I have friends and relatives who are very conservative, and I have, you know, employed Braver Angels methods to listen to them, and they're not the, you know, I've thought about, or I have asked a couple of them, you know, about coming to the local Braver Angels Alliance meeting, but in the first place, they're not computer-oriented people. They don't have laptops. They're working, you know, work in the trades or landscaping. They barely know how to do anything more than text on their phones. So there's kind of a technological barrier. And I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, well, what if, you know, the weather's still kind of okay up here. A barbecue might be nice. And what if we approached it as a listening party? I think it was Jerry who said how important listening was, and I'm totally with that. And instead of trying to, you know, well, not convert's the wrong word, but instead of trying to get them to join Braver Angels, what if we just go and try to listen to them? Because they may not be on board with the sort of bridging the divide thing, but everyone likes to be listened to. And I'm just wondering if any alliances or anybody in Braver Angels has tried that kind of thing. And I would be sure to make mistakes if I tried it. And I just wondered if someone else has already made some of those mistakes and could.
Yeah, David, I really dig your line of thinking here. Jennifer, is there anything you would want to say to that?
I would, and I'm also from Massachusetts. So what part of Massachusetts are you from, David?
Lexington.
Lexington. Okay. There is a Boston Alliance that's been getting started.
Yeah, I've been to that.
Yeah. Our alliance is out in Western Massachusetts, and you know, we have another local alliance in Greenfield north of us, and we definitely have found that those who are conservative leaning really want to be meeting in person and haven't liked kind of Zoom meetings as much. So we have definitely been starting to meet in person outside. We also, when we got our alliance started, we did outreach to both sides as much as we could. We collected a bunch of people together and we met in a big public park for a picnic. And we did kind of Braver Angels sort of one-on-ones, Reds and Blues talking together one-on-one. And we, the question that we asked was, what does respect mean to you? And it was fascinating. The woman I talked to was a local Republican committee person, very active in local Republican politics. And we had almost the exact same understanding of what respect means. And it led to this really sense of sort of connection between us, so that, as we started talking about a few policy questions in the time that we had, we realized that we were coming from the same place, of, the same kind of concept of what it means to respect someone else. And then we were able to really bring that to our conversation. So this is just the kind of thing that, lots of alliances do. So, I think you're really on the right track with that idea.
Are there any?
I agree. David, we should keep going, my friend, just in the interest of time. But thank you very much. And I do think that you're thinking in a good direction here. Listening can be the best form of persuasion. And Mira, go ahead and unmute and jump in the convo.
Well, David, I love that, and thank you about the just talking about what respect is. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes,
and you can't see me because I'm sitting outside and it's almost dark here in southern Iowa. Got to enjoy this cool weather we're having tonight. We're actually planning bridging the divide workshop here locally in our county, southern Iowa, and it's a red county, but so far it's mainly blues that are showing interest. But I would love to talk to somebody just who's started an alliance, just have a conversation with them, to talk one-to-one about getting some guidance about pitfalls or just, am I on the right track? So if all I want to know is if you can connect me with somebody that might be able to, I could just talk to you for, half an hour. So just toss that out there. You don't have to answer right now, but just think about it. And you have my email address.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Ann, and Randy, Barbara, Jennifer. I don't know if we can make sure that somebody, Rita, hey there, I'll make sure that we respond to Ann's request here. But that sounds good to me. Okay, excellent. Okay, we're getting close to the end here, folks. Let's try and get one or two more in. Randy,
can anybody hear me?
I can't hear you, Henry. I was going to go to Judy very quickly, but Henry will come to you right after. Judy Lenchewski, if I got that anywhere close to right. Go ahead and let's unmute you.
Hi, you did. Thank you. I just want to say that I just love being here. It's such a difference from being out there in the world and hearing all the anger. It feels like, the revolution is around the corner, and it feels safe and warm and cozy and, just what America should be. I participated in some Braver Angel events before COVID, and they were very small groups, very small, intimate groups. And I kind of fell away during COVID, came back, and was just blown away how much larger the participation is. And I was wondering if you could tell me how much you've grown in the past few years. Actually, it's a two-part question. The second one was what your plans are for continuing to reach people across the country. I think Randy answered that, but there may be more to share. But those are my questions.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on. In 2000 and the spring of 2018, when I joined, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I think we had our first 1,000 or 2,000 members in 2017, and we're at about 11,000 now. There's a lot of and people do quit. People do, we do have people who have fallen off and people who have joined again. And so, we've taken on some controversial issues here and there that have shaken a few people loose, and that's okay. Braver Angels isn't for everybody, but the growth has been strong, in terms of membership recruitment, but also just in terms of the volume of people we reach. Zoom was a part of that. Digital content reaching greater numbers of people is a part of that, and obviously, earned media coverage and so on and so forth. So it sort of depends on how you're measuring it. About 50,000 email subscribers or so. Fundraising has gotten a lot stronger over the last couple of years, in particular, I think, since 2020, although still have a lot of work to do there. So yes, there's been growth, but I do think that we're going to hit sort of an inflection point or an acceleration point that's going to take us to sort of a whole new level of magnitude. That's my sense. And I think that as Braver Politics picks up steam, as we work more closely with incredible partner organizations like Bridge USA, and as we get closer to the presidential election, there's going to be a lot of challenges, but I think some wind at our backs. So yeah, I think that's what I'd say for the moment. Henry, go ahead and jump in. Henry Butelman.
Unmute.
Let's see. Henry, can we get you unmuted there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I've been having problems with the Zoom mechanics, so I wasn't sure what was going on.
You and me both, brother. It's fine.
Yeah, I was talking to Central Texas Braver Angels yesterday and got cut off there too. But what I just had a basic question that I'm extremely interested in. Can Braver Angels consider social problems apart from polarization? We have a lot of crime in the Austin area that I'm in. Would that be a topic for Braver Angels, or do you not consider what I would call problems facing you directly? We have a lot of problems with that, and polarization is great, but it's not something to discuss right away in my area, mostly because that's not a problem in this area so much as the increase in crime. And the reason I'm asking that is because I think it's a big issue, and people having their cars stolen or getting shot is not something you can wait on.
Right.
So my question is, would that be not the right question for this group?
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. So let me jump in there, Henry. And so, certainly polarization, is the thing that we are focused on. Now, within that, of course, there's an essentially limitless range of issues that we discuss in the context of our, Braver Angels debates, in the context of, our workshops and podcasts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, from a discussion vantage point, there's nothing that we can't tackle. And we have tackled criminal justice reform and issues of crime and law enforcement, et cetera. In terms of direct organizing to combat crime or anything like that, that's not something we've done. I will tell you, though, that I've had, this is just between me and 100 of you here, but I have had interesting conversations with the LAPD, talking about how it is that Braver Angels designs could potentially be applied to sort of community policing and sort of, for lack of a more precise way of saying this, peacekeeping activities between, groups of people who are at odds with each other in urban environments and in parts of Los Angeles. Those conversations were very sort of nascent and theoretical, though. But Jennifer, is there something you wanted to add very quick? And Randy, I'm conscious of the time, so feel free to regulate us, Randy, if need be. But Jennifer,
that's okay. We just have one more question after this, so I think we're okay.
Okay, well, very quickly, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'll just jump in quickly and say that one of the things that is something that alliances can do, and not a lot of them have done it yet, but if alliances, after having conversation on a particular issue across red and blue, if they find there's a lot of common ground, on that issue, they can collectively as an alliance, talk about what they might want to do about it in their community. And if 80% of the members, red and blue, there's, it's really a majority of both the reds and the blues in that alliance can agree on what they want to do together, they can begin working on that issue together. So that is something that alliances can do. So, I think there are different ways, as John was suggesting, forward with that idea.
That's a great point. Thank you for reminding us of that, Jennifer. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Last question of the evening goes to Marilee Tossig. Is that right? Marilee Tossig?
That's right. That's right. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I would love to talk to David Sperduto about his idea of listening. So if there's any way for people to connect afterwards, or somebody could let me know how to do that. But mainly what I wanted to say, his suggestion about a listening project or a listening party made me think, and he also mentioned church, and I'm a Unitarian and they don't come any bluer than Unitarians. And we recently had a service where everyone was so discouraged. And I think Judy mentioned it, like being out in the world and everybody thinks there's a civil war coming tomorrow. And we went around in a circle and everybody felt like they were about to jump off a cliff, and they're all blue. And they asked me how I felt. And I said, well, I'm really excited about listening to people that I want to disagree with. And that's my mission. And I just felt like people relaxed a little bit because they weren't all pushing each other over the cliff. And so I just wanted to advocate here that along with going out, like David said, and listening to Reds, also talk to your blues and say, it's not that bad. I have a dear friend who's a Republican and just was the best human I ever met. I mean, don't let us stampede each other off the cliff. And if you don't know any Reds, you certainly know blues, and you can pull them back from the edge in just everyday advocacy.
There you go. There's work to be done in every direction. And Marilee, thank you for that clarion call. That was well said. Well said. Okay, folks. Well, I think that we really are at the end here. Randy, how are we closing the show, my friend? Are we going into a song here, or
Yes. So before we get to the song, on your screen, you will see a link to the evaluation. We would very much appreciate if everyone would complete that evaluation. We know that we had some technical difficulties and issues with this member meeting, but we really hope that you still really enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did. And also, I wanted to mention that I opened up the chat so folks can chat directly. If there's someone else in the call that you wanted to connect with directly, you can exchange contact information that way. So I'm going to leave this evaluation link up for a little bit, and then we'll also chat that link into the chat. And once everyone has gotten a chance to pull up the QR code on their phone or click on that link, if people could just make sure to finish that, and we're going to play a song next to close out the event. So thanks very much, everyone, and it's been wonderful to see you all.
Absolutely, it absolutely has. You folks are an inspiration. The fact that you care enough to be able to show up to a Zoom call on Tuesday evening, but beyond that, to do the incredible work that number of you are doing, and I think will be doing in the future potentially. And even if you're just a person who is here contributing, your dues on a monthly basis, tuning into the programs now and again, believe me, every level of involvement really matters. And we're going to look back on this sort of era in our work, I think, as things get downstream a little bit, and realize that small seeds were growing into mighty oaks, even here and now, right? So let's have some faith in the future and faith in each other. And once again, just very grateful for all of you. So we'll leave the screen up for a minute for you to complete the evaluation. We'll bring some music up to sing you all into the evening. But as for me, I look forward to seeing you all next time. Let's go out there and build a house united. Thank you, everyone, and take care.
Darling, darling, you're not okay. I can see that you're hurting. The look in your eyes shows me the pain. I feel the anger burning. Words hit you like hand grenades. Throw them back, you can make them pay. But maybe there's another way, hiding in the silence. Let the quiet voice drown out all the noise. Even when they're screaming out, I know that your love is louder. Let the battle cry fade away this time. Darling, you still have a choice. Listen to the quiet voice. Listen to the quiet voice. And I know, way down below, deep in the place you hide it, the eye of the storm, so clear and so calm, waiting for you to find it. It's spinning like a hurricane, hard to hear what you mean to say, but the storm won't go away until you climb inside it. Let the quiet voice drown out all the noise. Even when they're screaming out, I know that your love is louder. Let the battle cry fade away this time. Darling, we still have a choice. Listen to the quiet voice. Yeah, just 'cause they shout it, it doesn't make it true. 'Cause everyone gets the loudest when they're about to lose. Let the quiet voice drown out all the noise. Even when they're screaming out, I know that your love is louder. Let the battle cry fade away this time. Darling, we still have a choice. Listen to the quiet voice. Listen to the quiet voice.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.